Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the regular meeting of the Otero County Commission, Thursday, October 13th, 2022. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Markworth?
Here.
Commissioner Maverick?
Here.
All right, if you'll all rise for the invocation. Father, as we gather here today, we ask for your wisdom, strength, and discernment. I pray that we make decisions that are good for the people of our county and are pleasing to you. I pray that we all use grace when we choose our words and work together for the betterment of our county, our state, and our country. Thank you for blessing our state with rain, and we continue to pray for our ranching families in ways that we can continue to help them. In Jesus' name, amen.
If you'll follow me with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the symbol of perfect friendship among united folks. Okay, we're going to pull item number 10 from the consent agenda for discussion. Did you have anything else you wanted to pull or anything?
No.
Okay, all right. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. We're going to start off with our Sheriff's Office report.
Good morning, Commissioners. David Black, Otero County Sheriff.
Good morning.
Morning, David.
For September, the Otero County Sheriff's Office responded to 2,857 calls for service. We generated 230 investigative reports, 203 traffic citations, 54 traffic crash investigations, and resulted in 63 arrests for the month. I'm going to have to bypass the narcotics numbers for this month. The lack of communication between me and the narcotics director, so I don't have those numbers for you. I'll see that you get those. Hunting season kind of got in the way. In our special events, community relations, we conducted a presentation at First National Bank on the effects we are seeing with the illicit drug trade here in Otero County. September 16th and 17th, we assisted the Alamogordo Police Department with security at the Balloon and Music Fest. And then September 21st through the 24th, provided security at the Otero County Fair. Training for the month of September consisted of 3 members of the office staff attending 3 days of NIBRS training. This training is to help to understand the new crime reporting system and how the stats are compiled. Basically, that's our crime stats. They've changed it to this form of reporting, and it's very in-depth, so hence they had 3 days of training to get to where they could understand it. I did attend a Sheriff's Summit meeting in Sierra Vista, Arizona. We had members of the New Mexico Sheriff's Association, Southwest Border Sheriff's Coalition, Texas Border Sheriff's Association, Western State Sheriff's Association, and National Sheriff's Association. The summit was to present information as to what sheriffs from all over the United States are dealing with, as well as useful programs that are being used or implemented in other areas to help mitigate the effects that we're seeing with the southern border. The one thing I'll share with you is that the crisis at the border, it's not just a border issue. This crisis is coming to a town near you if it's not already there. I also attended a New Mexico Sheriff's Association meeting to discuss what we're seeing in retrospect to just New Mexico. We have since formed a New Mexico Sheriff's Subcommittee on border issues. We see a lot of numbers, a lot of reports from Arizona, and we see a lot from Texas. We're not seeing anything that's being reported on New Mexico. So that's going to be our job. as to come up with numbers, reports for what we're seeing, basically just on the New Mexico southern border. In our manning, we still have Deputy Clark. He's at New Mexico Law Enforcement Academy. He's doing really well up there. We got Deputies Kirkwood and Perez. Perez just completed his field training program. He is now cut loose on his own. Deputy Kirkwood, I think he's got a couple of weeks to go, and then he'll be out on his own. As it stands right now, I have 2 positions that I made offers yesterday to 2 deputies. They'll start October 31st. I have 2 lateral transfers from other agencies that are coming in. So hopefully within about the next 10 days, we'll have them on board. So the way it stands right now, I have 1 position open for deputy, 1 position open for a full-time dispatch, and 1 position open for a part-time dispatch. It's my goal, by the end of the year, I'm gonna be fully staffed and maybe have a few waiting in line for us. On our vehicles, nothing's really changed on that. We do have the 6 new vehicles that are at the upfitters right now. He's got them. He's upfitting them with emergency equipment. Here pretty soon, we'll be getting some paperwork together where we'll be ordering an additional 5 vehicles. So with that, I will stand for any questions that you have. Commissioner Madley, I'll tell you right now, as far as Bulls Acres.
Yep, that was it.
Here's my file right here. I'm putting this together. I am waiting for another set of photos on that other email that we got. I'm getting those photos together. I do have the ordinance. I do have the easement, showing the easement and stuff like that. I'm waiting on some photos. As soon as I get that, hopefully by tomorrow, then I'll meet with RB and we'll go over the proper procedures on handling that deal out there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
That was all I had.
And I understand the rabbit that was stolen at the fair was recovered.
Yes. Yeah, we got a tip from somebody, and I think it was 8 days later, we went to a house, and yeah, we recovered the rabbit and returned it to the owner at his house. So he was
Good.
happy
Very
little
happy.
kid.
Good,
Yes.
good work.
One other thing, Sheriff Black, I'd like to get with you. I discussed with you the stoplight at State Line and 54 down by Chaparral. I'd like to get with you with NRB to be able to write a letter to, we'll have to do it to the Texas Road Department, but
Right.
for support of that. So whenever you get a chance, if we can, we'll sit down and visit and try to get that done.
Yeah, I'm big support of that. You don't know how many crashes we go and assist on. We're usually first ones there. We just basically kind of got to hold the scene, make sure we get, medical and stuff for everybody. But there's some very bad crashes happening at that intersection. If there was any way we could get some kind of traffic control, but again, it's in Texas, so we
Yeah.
can encourage them to maybe show them some numbers and stuff.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Thank you.
Jot a note here just so I have it. All right.
Okay.
Anything else?
All right.
That's it. Thank you.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Is Matt not here?
He is at a conference this week.
Oh, okay, he's MIA.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good
Tom
morning.
Porter, Otero County Road Department. And so we had another wet month last month, which caused a lot of repairs on some of a lot of the mountain roads. Haynes Canyon, La Luz Canyon, Carr Canyon, Lodge Spring, Cornucopia, 506, Rio Pinasco, Russia, and Three Rivers. We've had to do a bunch of culvert work, gabion work, and cattle guard cleaning. Ended up hauling a bunch of pit run to Tule Dump Road, La Luz Canyon, Cornucopia, 506, and the other mentioned canyons before, and just to rebuild some sides of the roads. Mowing throughout the county, and 2 sets of major gabion repairs over on La Luz Canyon to support the side of the road where it was washing out.
You've been busy.
Yeah.
Tom, did you get a chance to look into, last month, I believe Mrs. Swanson said, on some federal road infrastructure bill Hmm.
And Eric and I, and actually RB is working on it also for part of the 506. That's one of the bills that's coming up that we're supposed to be a lot of money freed up.
I'm trying to look. I had another lady that was asking me about when her road was in line for chip seal, and when I find her name again, because I don't want to mispronounce it or the wrong road. I think you just went down and bladed it down.
We
in.
bladed it, yeah, it's the one you and I were talking about the other day. Yes.
She had mentioned to me that, and I don't know where she got it from, that it was supposed to be in line for chip seal. Is that?
That would have been my predecessor that had promised a bunch of the roads that were going to be chip sealed that never got done. It is one of the roads that's on the list when we start doing new roads, but as I explained to the commission years ago, that we have to get caught up on these existing roads that are chip sealed before we can even consider start doing new ones.
Okay. All right, well, I'll get her email, and that's what I'll answer her back then.
Okay.
That's all the questions I have.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Good morning, Commissioners. Trent Parker, I'm the project manager. I'll start out with the detention center. We're into the last few areas of the building, and phase 1, phase 2 of the booking renovation is steadily moving forward. Phase 1, they're going to be start laying the flooring today. All the casework, ceilings, and everything are complete in phase 1. Phase 2 and the medical renovations are currently being held up by CID state inspections for above ceiling inspections. As soon as we receive those inspections, they can go in and start working on finishing up the ceilings in those areas, and we can keep moving forward. They are doing everything they can. They're going to move forward with casework and countertops in those areas to try to keep the project moving along as much as possible. They have asked for a 2-week extension because of the delays in inspections, and so we're going to go ahead and move forward with approving that. There's kind of a issue we can't really have any
Where
do
did the
anything about.
inspectors come from?
Las Cruces, and they're really bogged down right now with work, and so the above ceiling inspection was put in last Tuesday, and as of yesterday, we still hadn't received an inspection. They have been contacting them to see when we might get those inspections, but we don't want to harass them too much. And that's about it on it. All the outside is complete. I mean, it's moving along. We're almost there on that project.
So what's our date now, our projected date on?
It'll go from October 19th to November 2nd. And that'll be the substantial completion. Chen's Phase 3, it's currently, everything's over in DFA's hands. It's under review from them so that we can get their approval where they'll release the funding to us, and then we can go out for bid for the Phase 3 of Chen's. The EOC this month, the drywall was hung and finished, ceilings put in, painting's all completed. Next week we'll be working on flooring. All the electrical, everything is complete in there. So that one's almost finished. Matt and I are both working on getting the internet service put in and phone services put in so that once that project is complete, they can all get their personnel moved into that building. The PSAP dispatch project, it is on the agenda today for awardment. We're seeking awardment to White Sands Construction for that project. We're hoping to, after awardment, have notice to proceed by October 31st. So that should be off and running by November. One other project we have going on currently is the courthouse. We're doing a roof coating and brick sealer on that project. Materials were delivered this week, and notices went out to the staff of the courthouse because we're going to be experiencing a few closures of parking lots in different areas while that sealant is going on. And we've got them all the information and all the data sheets for the chemicals that are gonna be used to clean the brick and clean the roof and stuff like that. They're all low VOC, but we wanted to get them all that information ahead of time to try to fair warn, the process that's gonna be taken. That should be about a 2-week project, and then that'll be wrapped up and weather dependent, of course, on the roofing. But so far, it's gone really smooth. Road shop have been helping Tom and his crew. We're going to be changing out some doors for some budget money that they had gotten to change out some doors on their shop. We're working on getting pricing and everything for that project. So,
Trent, real quick on that one, on the shop deal, is there any word on the building that was supposed to be coming in on that? Is it?
we're actually getting pricing on that right now. We just reached out to the engineers to get the slab engineering and electrical and plumbing engineering done. Once we get all of that packaged together, then we can put it out for bid. But we have received pricing on the buildings and stuff like that to kind of see where we're going to stand as far as budget. But of course, it's a large enough project, it has to go out for competitive bid.
So backing up to the detention center, when you get your substantial completion, are they going to will they be able to issue you a CO then to where we can occupy?
Yeah, once we have temporary occupancies on all the completed areas that we are occupying, and then once we get substantial completion, they'll come do an overall inspection, and then we can get the fire marshal's office in there to do a final inspection, and we'll receive a certificate at that point.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Trent.
Good morning,
Good
Carolyn.
morning.
Carolyn Barella, Correctional Services Director. Today's population, we have 158 in total. We have 69 in-house, 55 males and 14 females. We currently have 28 at the Otero prison, 20 at Hudspeth County, 33 at Doñana County, 8 at Lincoln. We have 8 at the Department of Corrections for either 60-day diagnostic or a CJ hold. We have 9 out on furloughs/treatment facilities. Our average population for August was 205 inmates. Currently, we have 3 juveniles housed at the Doñana County Juvenile Facility. 2 males and 1 female. We received notice from Magistrate Court that they were going to return to the original schedule. It was at the end of September, advising us that now arraignments would return to Monday, Wednesday, and Friday afternoons. They will continue to receive documentation from us on the weekends to ensure that they review it, if they're going to release them or if they're going to retain them until they see them on the following business day. So that has returned. They were doing it every day. So now they've returned it to just 3 days a week. Doñana County picked up about 20 of our inmates at the beginning of September and moved them out to their facility. So we still have quite a few that need to be moved. However, we're waiting on them as they have space and availability to come pick them up and take more out. They said they were hoping to be able to take 60 of our inmates. So as you can tell, we're only at the 33, so we still have quite a few to be moved out. During our CJCC meeting, we have monthly with the courts and the panel that is part of law enforcement, the jail, the attorneys, the PD, the courts, all of the courts. JPO advised us, we had received a letter prior stating that middle of the month they weren't going to be able to do any more. Doñana County would not do any Google Meets for juveniles, and that meant that we would have to transport them to and from depending on what court they needed. Somehow JPO was able to manage to work in agreement with Doñana County, and so therefore we're not having to bring juveniles back and forth as needed for court. They can do it over Google Meets. So that helped a lot, because it's really hard right now, especially with a shortage of staff, trying to find somebody to bring them back for court and then turn around and having to take them right back. So that has been a benefit to us. And so we did receive a letter from San Juan County as well, the juvenile facility, and they stated that they would no longer be able to house out-of-county juveniles, at least for the month of October. And there could be other issues, and this was due to shortage of staff as well. So right now, if we get any more juveniles, we're at the mercy of Doñana County, because if they can't take them, then we won't be able to accept them. So that might become an issue in the, hopefully, it could become an issue in the future, hopefully not. So juvenile facilities are very few. There's only 3. Santa Fe will not take any more out-of-county juveniles. San Juan has just followed in their footsteps. So the only one we have is Doñana County to use.
So you receive a juvenile, or what do we do?
Well, we'll call Doñana County. We will try our best to get them in there, and if we can't, then we'll have to refer them back to JPO. JPO will then have to decide what they're going to do with them, because we can't accept them if we have no bed for them. So we're just hoping we don't get to that point. And the last, of course, is our levels, our staffing levels. We currently have 28 employees. We have 19 full-time, 1 part-time, and we are at 30 vacancies. We did have 28 full-time and 2 part-time still open. We had 1 employee that resigned at the end of September, and his last day was October 3rd. We did have a couple that did come in. We have another one starting next week, but again, we're not getting the applications, and it's one at a time, maybe 2 if we're lucky, but we're still not seeing an increase in the apps. So we're still struggling.
This is a statewide problem. I mean,
It
all the
is.
counties are suffering from this right now.
Yes, and a lot of counties that I've spoken with are probably headed in the same direction where we are at, is trying to move some of their inmates out, so that way they have enough staff to cover the inmates they do have in their facility. So that's all I have.
All right. I don't have any questions, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Carolyn.
thank you.
Do you want to talk about number 10 first?
Sure.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and move to consent agenda item number 10.
Sheriff Black? The only reason why I pulled this was I had a very busy week this week, and I didn't get a chance to come over and visit with you a little bit.
Okay.
If you could just give a little bit of background, is this a new procedure?
This is federal grant money, Stone Garden. Normally, we get about between 200, 260,000 a year for this grant for us to help with, Border Patrol and any patrols and stuff down on the southern part of the state. Doñana County has decided they no longer want to participate in Stone Garden.
Mhm.
So that left out Sunland Park, Hatch, and New Mexico State Police, who were basically friendly forces to Doñana County. So we have basically applied for and got additional monies. Again, it's all federal money to supplement New Mexico State Police, Sunland Park, and Hatch, so that they can continue their support on the border.
Okay.
And then it's overtime, equipment, and stuff like that. So
You answered my next question was on the funding of it, which would be federal, so that's good. So this was a operation that was already in place, we're just adjusting it, amending it?
We've been doing it for
Yeah,
years.
okay.
We're just bringing them in under our umbrella now as a friendly force, so that they can continue with their efforts to helping over that way.
So in other words, I was just hoping anybody that was listening or wondering, Otero County, our Sheriff Department, and the county itself, we're doing our best we can to try to help with all the border issues, the drug trafficking. Sheriff Black has many programs that he's got started on to the White Mountain Task Force, which is a different, same name, or is it?
Yeah, still same.
So he's got that going. He's trying to keep this going. So Otero County is doing everything we can possibly can to stay on top of this. So I'm all for it. I just wanted just a little bit of background so everybody that is listening could understand what this was about.
Right.
And I thank you very much. You answered my questions.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, so I'll read the consent agenda items. All right. Number 1, request approval of accounts payable bills list BL 8, BL 9, BL 11, BL 12. Number 2, request approval of healthcare assistance claims and disposition claims of October 2022. Number 3, request approval of August 16th, 2022 special meeting minutes. Number 4, request approval of September 8th, 2022 regular meeting minutes. Number 5, request approval of September 27th, 2022 special meeting minutes. Number 6, request approval of resolution number 10-13-22/111-18 to auction vehicles to government.deals and online auction service. Number 7, request approval of resolution number 10-13-22/111-19 budget adjustments. Number 8, request approval to award seal bid 23-006 for the E911 expansion to the White Sands Construction, Alamogordo, New Mexico, in the amount of $939,000. Number 9, request approval to amend the 2022 holiday schedule to reflect the correct Veterans Day holiday. Number 10, request approval of a memorandum of understanding between Otero County and New Mexico Department of Public Safety, Sunland Park Police Department, and Hatch Police Department for the purpose of providing enhanced law enforcement services. Number 11, request approval of a grant agreement between the New Mexico Department of Transportation and Otero County for the Tiburon Guardrail Replacement Safety Improvement Planning in the amount of $237,000. I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Alrighty, so now we're going to move on to schedule citizens' communications. John Davis and Sherry Atkinson.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
On September 6th,
Say your name.
oh, yes, my name is John Davis. This is Sherry.
And Shara Atkinson.
Okay.
Okay. On September 6th, 2022, a federal judge ruled that Coy Griffin was ineligible to hold his office and was disqualified from the time of the January 6th insurrection. Since he was not qualified to hold that office during that time, he was paid from January 6th to September 6th, a total of 20 months' salary as a Otero County Commissioner. If my figures are correct, and they could be wrong, that comes to $40,907.50 that he received that he was not qualified to receive. I would ask the Commission to try to recoup that money.
No, I don't have any. I'm just here
Well,
to
say
support you.
something.
Okay, I'm just here to support
Okay.
John.
Okay, all right. I think that right now Coy's got this under appeal, so that's kind of in a holding pattern until that appeal is, till the court answers the appeal, so.
I see. So, in the meantime, there's no action the board can take or that they're willing to take?
No,
Oh, okay. Have you consulted with Mr. Nichols about this?
yes.
Yeah? Okay,
So
thank you.
let me kind of give you my little opinion on this too. It's only worth a penny, but Mr. Griffin did appear and he did do services during that time from the January 6th till September 6th. He came to meetings, he did other services, he did help residents throughout. I agree you need to wait till see what the appeal is, but you still have to remember Mr. Griffin did do he did work for the county during that time, which I think he needs to be paid for it. It does take his time. He had to show up. He had to leave his regular job. So I'll just kind of leave it right there with that.
I understand, sir, but what he was doing was a job he was not qualified to do. Okay. I think you guys are now looking at every, or you should be, at every proposal that he came up with, everything that you folks voted on that were submitted by him, that he wasn't qualified to submit. That's a federal judge's ruling, and I understand he said he would appeal it, and I'm okay with waiting for the appeal to go through. I think he will not prevail, okay? I got a copy of the Constitution, and I'm sure that you folks probably have pocket copies of the Constitution, and you've looked up the same thing that I did, Amendment 14, Section 3, and what it says. And it's pretty clear, okay, in what it says. So I don't think he will prevail. And at that point, I'm wondering, would you be willing to try to recoup money that was spent by the county for an unqualified individual?
I think at that time, after the appeal with some more legal research, we'll have to address that situation at that time.
I see. Okay. Well, that was all my concerns. So thank you.
Thank you.
Just for the record, I dislike cell phones. I'm gonna go out. I'll be back.
Okay, Mr. Andreas?
I'm the other half, Arnold.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners and people of Otero County. I'm Chuck Andreas. My friend here is Arnold Anaya. We're here to wake you guys up, everybody. We're going to shine some sunlight on the agendas that are going on in our schools. The information we present is based on IPRAs, from APS, New Mexico PED, and other source docs. After this presentation, I'll give you some information on what everybody can do. You, the people, have the power. You just don't know it yet. If we could get the first slide up, our title of our presentation is Exposed, APS District, Exposed to the Sunlight. Sunlight is a great disinfectant. Next slide. We're going to show, I like numbers. And we're going to show some proficiency data put out by New Mexico PED on our elementary schools. And if everybody takes a look at that very first one, Buena Vista Elementary, I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with the ALA, the designations of that, English Language Arts and Early Literature, Math and Science, and they take an average of those. And Buena Vista shows these are proficiency numbers, 53%, 41%, 44, and 44, and the average of those is 46%. I'm not sure if people know what proficiency means. That is for whatever grade they're at, what they are able to accomplish satisfactorily at that grade level. So 40%, 46% are able to achieve that percentage. If it was on a grading system, A, B, C, D, E, and F, it would be anybody who had an A, B, or C would be considered proficient. So it's 46% are proficient, not quite half. That's a good number for this area. And if you look at another one, Desert Star Elementary, look at the average, it's 27% are proficient. If you flip that number over, you're looking at 73% are not proficient. They'd get a D or an F. If you look at another one that's good, it's the High Rolls Elementary. Their average is 74%. 3/4 of their students are proficient. That's good. That's one of the number ones, that's the number one in our district. And the one right below that, Holloman Elementary, is number 2. They're at 55%. A little bit more than half are proficient. And then next slide, please. I'm going to jump on down. We got another one. Number 3 is Holloman Middle School. They're at 43%. As you notice the numbers on the side there and the averages, we highlighted that one. That's number 3 in our district of all the schools. And I jump on down to the high school. This number is taken from on the 11th grade. They're fixing to graduate. This number, they've gone through the school system. 33% are proficient, 1/3. 2/3 are not. Does everybody understand what that means? 2/3 of the students are failing, not able to complete. These are their numbers, not ours. We don't make this stuff up. I'm appalled. I'm sick of this. What are they doing? Oh boy, next slide. I'm trying not to get emotional about this. So, realistically, New Mexico is at the very bottom of the United States in school achievement. Has there been a root cause analysis performed by the state or district on this problem? Don't reinvent the wheel. See what successful schools are doing in other states and implement that plan. Take the best of those examples. Next slide. Changing names and definitions. Why? Oftentimes, names of subjects and definitions change. Do not assume the common definition is the one that is applied to the words in the curriculum. And what purpose? Why do they do this? To hide what is being taught, to make it difficult to find information, therefore difficult to identify what is taught, to create confusion with parents by saying it is not being taught here, easier to placate parents and grandparents by changing those definitions. Next slide. Social studies, CRT, is in everything. We've been saying for quite some time that people need to move beyond CRT media talk. We know CRT is alive and well, but it's also paramount for people to understand that CRT is not a class, a book, an assignment, or a lesson plan. CRT is merely an insidious framework that has many tenets. One of the most harmful tenets of CRT is that parents need to understand is called social emotional learning, also known as SEL. It is embedded in the curriculum called cross-curricular. Next page, next slide. The origins of CRT social studies. Coined by Derek Bell, Harvard University, to oppose what he perceived as America's inherent racism. Critical race theorist's goal is eliminating all race-based and other unjust hierarchies. Also, as critical race theory concludes, America's institutions, political structures, and economic and social systems are founded upon race, a social construct. A CRT has key elements in social agendas, social justice agendas, and should be further examined in K through 12 studies immediately. Next slide. CRT content. The following K through 12 policies, programs, and competencies likely engage in a CRT approach and should be further examined immediately. Social emotional learning programs, Black Lives Matter in school, diversity, equity, and inclusion. See that term a lot. Anti-racist lessons or training, unconscious bias lessons or training, culturally responsive practice, social justice lessons or training. Next slide. CRT motivations and goals. Only treats race issues as socially constructed groups, so there are no individuals in critical race theory. Believes science, reason, and evidence are a white way of knowing, and that storytelling and lived experience are a black alternative, which hurts everyone, especially black people. Rejects all potential alternatives, like colorblindness, as forms of racism, making itself the only allowable game in town, which is totalitarian. Acts like anyone who disagrees with it must do so for racist and white supremacist reasons, even if those people are black. Cannot be satisfied, so it becomes a kind of activist black hole that threatens to destroy everything it is introduced into. At this point, I'm going to have my friend pick up on aspects of the next slide.
Academics are the past, becoming a thing of the past in public schools, replaced by behavioral psychology and social and emotional learning. Designed not to educate, but to transfer children course values, attitude, beliefs, and behavior. Today's government schools use advanced method, including SEL, to instill in children the radical views and oftentimes contradictory political correct values, radical environmentalism, radical feminism, Marxism, social justice, gender and sexual identity, population control, socialism, hyper-racialism, class struggle, and more. Next slide. While parents are led to believe that SEL is like teaching children the golden rule, it's quite the opposite, said Jennifer McWilliam, fired, outspoken Indiana educator. Social emotional learning is rooted in progressive social justice ideology that invites anyone who questions the radical groupthink agenda, she says. From my personal experience, not only do parents do not understand it, but teachers and ministers don't either. SEL also represents the brainwashing of our children. McWilliam continues, noting that it trains children to compromise everything with no consideration of what is taught in the home. Next slide. These are some of the writers: John Fetzer, Alice Bailey, and John Andrew, a man universally known among educators as the founding father of America's progressive education system. Next. These are some of the funding people: Bill Gates, United Nations of Education, Science and Culture, the Rockefellers. David Rockefeller wrote in the New York Times in 1973 that the social experience of China under Chairman Maui leadership is one of the most important and successful in human history. Next slide. The self-craze is an extreme threat to American youth and to individual liberty. The scheme is about helping children at all. Instead, it's about manipulating and conditioning American youth to hold the values and beliefs of Marxism, education, establish what is to install, which is contrary to the majority of parents. Unfortunately, the values and beliefs on the incompatibility with individual liberties, Western civilization and U.S. Constitution and nuclear family, religious liberty, and other values are the unpin in the United States. Next slide. The official representation of SEL is teaching how to cope with life and understanding relationships, underneath which is not mentioned in public documentation or teaching standards in gender identity, gender affirming care, gender pronouns, gender clothing. Children are presented with confusing gender sex lessons and that make them uncomfortable and confused with their biological sex. Children are impressionable, which makes them ripe and co-trained. Narrative: children rarely question this sexuality. Next slide. Standards are set for students should know that be able to do while learning academic contents. Social emotional learning standards are similar. They provide a shared language which educators and politicians can discuss what students will be learning from the SEL curriculum. The graph, notice classroom and schools take priority over family and caregivers. This is not accident. Children are not to discuss this with their learning right here in middle school. They're being influenced to trust their families, not to trust their families, but to trust their teachers. Next. Universal care prescribed and performed by licensed physicians. Hormone therapy, never totally reversible. Top surgery, removing of breast, bottom surgery, total hysterectomy, removal of testicles, revision and of genitalia. Care accessories, binds and flattened breasts available in Target and others. Underwear with artificial male organs available in others. These are some items that might not be here in the schools, but there will be. Transaction population, ages 13 to 17, 7%. 18 to 24, 0.7%. 25 to 64, 0.6%. 65.5%. Next page. Off-label use of pharmaceutical drugs for an unapproved indication or in the unapproved age group, dose or route of administration. If your healthcare provider decides to use the approved drug for any unapproved use of treatment or disease or medical condition, remember the FDA has not determined that the drug is safe and effective for the unapproved use. golden standard, no gold standard blind clinical trials of hormone blocker use longer term. Children's bodies process different drugs differently. Caution must be used. Hormone therapy for gender transition can never be reversed. The side effects range from increase in strokes, heart attacks, diabetes, reduced bone density, increased blood pressure, and increased cholesterol. Why are so many children in hospitals rushing to perform these surgeries and dispense off-label use of drugs without clinical trials? Follow the money. Why is this so wrong? Medical and pharmacy boards, hospitals, and medical groups pressured physicians not to prescribe HCQ or ivermectin for COVID-19 because there were no doubt blind clinical trials sanctioned by the NIH. Physicians and pharmacists are threatened with their license if they did. They would not allow them to be prescribed off-label, although the over 200 studies worldwide showed safety and effectiveness in all age groups. What's the difference? Drugs still under patent were required by government, $. Here's some samples of the school books in the library. Boy Meets Boy. I was always known I was gay, but I wasn't confirmed when I was in kindergarten. It was my teacher who said so, and I was right there on my binder. Kindergarten report card. Paul is definitely gay and has very good sense of self. I might have not realized I was different if my teacher hasn't pointed it out. I was only 5 years old. Next slide. The other one is my heart underwater. Underwater was not our public school, was not in our public school. It appears from the reviews of this book on Amazon and Goodreads that the main character called the adolescent in one review was taken advantage of by her teacher. This novel readily available in students never broaches and ratifications of a teacher taking advantage of a student, where that relationship might be a pedophilia. Constantly, the scenarios are promoted to young high school readers without the legal or moral consequences of being addressed. Teachers Union, union consultation and collaboration, members of the NEA, AFT, and the Albuquerque Teachers Federation meet on how to utilize the American Rescue Plan Act funds. Results were spending on professional development, emphasizing social and emotional learning, CRT, grading for equality, project-based learning, and home visit training, teachers residency, and recruiting program. According to the Center of Response Politics, and NEA was the second largest contributor to political campaign on any individual corporation on union in 12-14 and in 12-16, the American Federation of Teachers, AFT, and the NEA collectively gave $64 million to political contributions compared to $11 million and $28 by the Koch brothers and George Soros, respectively.
Now we're talking about transparency. New Mexico PED and Alamogordo Public Schools have broken this trust with parents and the community by saying CRT is not taught in our public schools. There is no class called CRT, but it is embedded throughout every class, as is CEL. Each subject is taught through the lens of these narratives. Why are they deceiving the community? Why is this information not readily available to parents and community members? Full transparency of a curriculum is required. Next slide. USDA and school lunch program. In furtherance with the government agenda, the USDA has issued a directive. Any school who participates in a free lunch program will be required to allow transgender children in whichever bathroom or facilities in which they are comfortable. This means that biological boys identifying as a female will be allowed to in all female facilities, bathrooms and showers. Same applies to biological females identifying as males. Next slide. Government funding and requirements. APS accepted funds, government funds from many different agencies and funds from American Rescue Plan and ESSA that have requirements regarding required curriculum. APS requested funds specifically for the teaching of CEL in the amount of $20,000. The district is only one of 15 public school districts in the state to request that purposed money. All funds have strings attached. On this next slide, there's the proof. The very top one, Alamogordo Public Schools, roll across there, you see they accepted $20,000. And look at the headline underneath New Mexico Department of Education. It says, right there on the right-hand side of that red box, Social Emotional Learning, Final Award, 2021. These are contracts, folks. When there's no free lunch, there's no free money involved. There's something attached to it. Next slide. Status. The APS district policies state the curriculum is determined by each district and are consistent with community values. However, these are not our community values. However, since APS had accepted federal funds knowing they had to teach the elements of critical race theory, social studies, CRT, newly defined, and the elements of social emotional learning, any statement to the contrary is not true and is misinformation. Next slide. Back to basics. Teaching a character, integrity, respect, compassion, and understanding enriches children more than focusing on race and gender. If taught through the lens of these goals and attributes and embedded these lessons into curriculum, there will be more benefit, less confusion, and disruption in the lives of the kids, of the students. Schools are for teaching academics, English, math, and science. So how could this be the reason our students are scoring so low? So what to do? Parents and policymakers must urgently protect the nation's children from this dangerous threat. Do not vote to approve local bonds or constitutional amendments for funding higher education until the curriculum is changed, making your voices heard. In conclusion, we want to make everybody, we want them to investigate what's going on, ask questions, challenge us. Most importantly, challenge the school officials. They work for you, the people. What is the purpose of the schools? It's education, right? What is education? What is indoctrination? Are you happy with the proficiencies that we showed? What happened to the ABC grading system? Why was it changed? Are you happy with the scores? If this school is being touted as being, the high school is being touted as number 3 in the state, how did they come up with that number? What good is it if the whole state is at the bottom of the barrel in the United States and you're number 3? If you don't like what the school is doing, take action. Change the direction of the school. That's one option you can do. Or you can pull your kid out of the school, public school, and put them into a private school. Form your own school. It's not that difficult. There's a lot of programs out there. Hillsdale offers a free program with classical curriculum. It's free. They help you set it up. Or you can homeschool. Most importantly, whose responsibility is it for your child? Who's responsible? Is it the school? That's what it's turning into be. Or are you responsible for your child? Thank you very much for allowing us to shed this light and this light on a dark matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, boy.
Okay, Marcia Sturman.
Hi, guys.
Would you say your name, please, in the microphone?
My name is Marcia Sturman. I'm a legal voter in Otero County. Albert Einstein said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. How is it that we've come to another election cycle and we're still using the same flawed voting system? It's my understanding that the voting machines currently in use in our county are required to be certified in accordance with state and federal law. It's also my understanding that the Secretary of State used an unaccredited lab to test our equipment. This is illegal. And the electronic poll books haven't been tested in 11 years, in spite of having multiple updates, each of which would need a new certification. It's also true that the Secretary of State's own records show that the voting machines and poll books are neither certified nor accredited. The county clerk and Secretary of State are aware that they are violating the law by using these machines. They are ignoring the will of the people and our Otero County Commission vote of 2-1, directing them to not use these machines. I believe that all legal voters, both Democrat and Republican, have a right to have their vote counted one time. Also, out-of-state votes and the votes used from our voter rolls of those deceased in Otero County are fraudulent. The voter rolls in Otero County must be purged, and I respectfully request that the commission address this in the very near future. We are hereby placing the county clerk and the Secretary of State on notice that using uncertified machines is a knowingly and willfully violation of the law and their oath. In closing, here we are in the midst of one of the most important elections of our lifetime, and this is where we are. It's crazy. Otero County can do better than this, and God bless you for doing these very demanding jobs, and thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Marcia.
Thank
Heather Floden.
Hi,
Good morning.
my name's Heather Flodine. So the last time Mr. Andres presented, I had brought some books forward that I had read, and there were a couple that I didn't get to because of time. And I did read actually The Boy Meets Boy that he spoke about. They had an example of one of the pages on there, and I believe that was a small portion of that book that was taken out of context and twisted a little bit, and I think it's just really important that before we make judgments on these books that can be really helpful to our LGBTQ plus community, that we read them in full and do the research before we pass judgments on them. So an example is I read just a couple chapters of that book, and then, I said I would read more, and my first impression of it was like, it's just a normal teeny bopper book, but with LGBTQ plus main characters. But after reading it, I'll say that it's a little bit different than that. There's a little more to it, and it's full of some really positive takeaways. I mean, there's a saying about judging a book by its cover, and I think, it holds true here. The book was actually really great, and I'm glad I was introduced to it through this process because before the presentation, I had never heard of it. And I just wanted to give another perspective on it that's different from what was presented. I personally thought it was really witty and funny and full of interesting and important themes. It normalized paying attention to red flags or potentially toxic traits in a partner or relationship, which is really great. It also portrays compassion, community, acceptance, and hope throughout the text, which I think we can all agree are pretty great characteristics. There are LGBTQ students in our community, whether people in our community like that or not. They exist. And I ask that our community refrains from alienating or shaming them. It's hard to believe that the contents of one page is the true issue here, especially when the presenters previously based their opinion off of just the book titles or cherry-picked reviews. I believe it's the gay and transgender part that really bothered them, and based off their and I believe that based off of their choices during their last presentation. I'm not sure if the point of the presentation is that you all work with the school board on removing text and materials, but I ask that the commission not go to the school board and request to remove literature from the library simply because the main characters have consensual relationships that outwardly appear different than their own or the presenter's relationships. That's all I have to say. I think it's really important that we, not alienate students just because of who they are attracted to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marvin Sanford? No, you know. Okay, Jessica Aguilar? Good morning.
My name is Jessica Aguilar, and I have lived in...
Yeah, slide that over,
Yeah.
please.
Is that good?
So they can pick you up online.
Is that good? Closer?
Talk into it and see if they can hear you.
Good? Okay. My name is Jessica Aguilar, and I have lived in Otero County for quite some time. Okay, my name is Jessica Aguilar, and I have lived in Otero County for quite some time. I'm going to comment on the request that John Davis and Sherry Atkinson added to the agenda on recouping Mr. Griffin's salary that he earned from January 6, 2022. As of January 6, Mr. Griffin had not been removed by the corrupt judge, Judge Francis Matthew, at that time. Coy served his time on the Otero County Commission and should have never been removed from his position by a judge because the people of Otero County voted him in, once with the election and again with a recall. The J6 day was staged, and we know this to be proven by facts, the whistleblowers and common sense, but yet he was thrown out of office by a district judge in Santa Fe because Coy stands up for the hard issues that nobody else wants to address, such as abortion, election transparency, and our corrupt government. These issues need to be pressed into. Coy was also not treated fairly and was shut out, I believe, by his fellow commissioners. This was someone you once called friend. One example, Coy requested an official statement as to why the county would not represent him prior to the hearing on July 1st. Once he did not receive the request, he then had to schedule a meeting to receive an official position from Otero County. Instead of scheduling an executive session, a public meeting was scheduled even when you said you weren't going to take any public comments. In that case, when Roy Nichols, the Otero County lawyer, requested a meeting regarding a 3-year contract, that meeting should have been public as well. This is actually where I feel my money has been misused and wasted. Money given to our Otero County lawyer who doesn't fight for our commissioners or the people of Otero County's rights. This is only one example out of many that I have seen, but I only have a few minutes to speak. I would like to add that I do not personally know Coy and have not met him. With that being said, I feel that it is immoral to even request that his salary be returned to Otero County. I ask that you take a step back and really evaluate the whole picture and what we truly need to be fighting for. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly Goss?
Good morning.
Good
My name
morning.
is Kelly Goss. And I just want to bring to your attention what is happening up on the mountain on our allotment. We went on our tour in May to look at the fences up in Wills Canyon, but the Forest Service has started constructing the fence and our shipping trap in the Penasco, and it's really putting some hurt on us. Before, when they had put the electric fence up, we had some water lanes so our cattle could water. Now we do not have any water lanes. There's one area going up towards Water Canyon, but if they would have just moved the fence a little bit, our cattle could have got to water. But now there's such a steep bank, it's going to be really hard on those cattle to get in there and water, and we would really like for you guys to come up and take a look. I did send an email yesterday. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it, but the pictures and the video just really don't tell the story. It's like our tour. Once you go and see it, it's just pretty appalling. We're also concerned with the county right-of-way because it's right up against the road, and Spike's concerned about blading the snow if you're going to have room to do that. So we'd like for you guys to take a look at that. They're not finished with it yet. I don't know where the gates are going to be, but we need some gates. And we're going to have cattle in there starting next week or maybe the following week. And it's going to just cause such a problem in there with those cattle not being able to get to water. So we'd like for you guys to get up there and look at that. And I was also wondering, I was going to update you on our mediation, our appeals process. Mediation went nowhere. The details of mediation are confidential, but I can tell you that the Forest Service was not willing to compromise on anything. And I was also curious about the letters. I know there were 2 cease and desist letters that you guys approved. I was wondering if the second one was ever delivered.
It was.
It was, okay, I did not receive a copy of that, if I could get a copy of that.
Okay.
And then, also another letter that I've heard that was written, but I don't know anything about that either, so, I'll talk to RB about that. Sheriff
Yeah.
Black said he would get me a copy of that. So again, I just wanted to bring it to your attention, what's going on, and those cattle are gonna be in there within at least 10 days, and it's a pretty dire situation. If you guys have a chance to go up and look
Yeah,
at that.
Let me know and I'll come up whenever.
Okay, it shouldn't take very long, a couple hours, 30 minutes to look at it maybe, and you drive up. So
Okay.
if we could talk about your schedule. And then Spike also wanted me to let you know that he has a proposal for the dump up there at Weed that he would like to talk to you guys about. So, and RB, I was wondering if you ever spoke to our attorneys about our water issue, the lawsuit on that? 'Cause
I've not got in contact with them.
Okay, because I just wondered if you had got their interpretation of our water rights, but if we still need to do that. In that letter, did you write a letter to the IG?
I did write a letter to the IG.
Would you send me a copy of that if you don't mind? Can you see me on that?
It was an online form, and I'll see if I can get a copy, but I don't think it's saved. I just typed it into the form.
Was it the
and submitted
coordination cooperation topic or
Yes.
the lack of thereof?
That's what I hit them on, and then I hit them on the pictures that you posted of the off-road vehicles in the critical habitat area. And I tried to angle it that the Forest Service was being selective in their enforcement of rules and regulations, and that it was I'm losing the word right now, but it was in retaliation for the years of lawsuits that you filed, all the actions towards you, because there's certain criteria that an inspector general will look at and certain criteria they won't. And if there's ongoing litigation, if there's ongoing criminal prosecution, stuff like that, they'll just deny looking at it offhand. But if there's retaliatory action for something that a person has done or an entity has done, that's something that they will look into. So that's the angle I took.
Okay. And I just want to say that the Forest Service has, I guess, agreed to let us use the Penasco. They didn't really let us know that, but we really have no other choice. But those cattle need water, and then basically it's animal cruelty for those cattle not to be able to get to water.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right, I'll get with you on coming up.
Okay, thank you.
Bob Heisinger?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good morning.
My name is Bob Heisinger. I'm here this morning to speak to the issue of recovering funds from Coy Griffin. However, given the fact that his case is under appeal, I'll table most of my comments. But I would be in agreement with Mr. Matherly to state that funds earned cannot be recovered or should not be pursued in terms of recovery. And Coy earned those funds. He was rightfully employed, did his job, but like I said, I'm going to curb most of those comments. I would say that the old Southern axiom, if you don't start none, there won't be none, seems to make the most sense. If we don't start a fight, we don't have to contend with the battle. And I don't think this is a battle the county or this commission wants to undertake. So, like I said, thank you for having me. I'm going to curb the body of my comments until later, but I wish you the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Kim Perry? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, counselors. My name is Kim Perry, and I just wanted to take this moment and introduce myself. I work with Congresswoman Yvette Harrell. I'm her Southern field representative. Primarily been based in southeastern New Mexico, however, started traveling to the southwestern part of the district back in July. And I just wanted to make the introduction, and I'm going to be doing mobile office hours today at the Chamber Center of Commerce from 1 to 3. So if anybody would like to stop in and introduce themselves, I would love to meet you guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Nix.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Matt Nix. I am here to see if there is a way that we possibly could open up some parts of Highway 65, 63, 130.
Matt?
and-
You want to hold that, that's agenda item 16, you want to hold that and we'll discuss that and then you can get up and talk then.
That's fine. I didn't even know if you needed me. I was here
Yeah.
just,
We'll address that.
that'll be fine. Thank you.
Chuck Andreas.
Hi again.
Good morning.
You guys know me. Couple of things. I couldn't get this on the previous agenda. It's a little bit different. For fighting back, for everybody wants to know, there's a law that's was on the books in 1974, passed, and it's called the Protection of Pupils' Rights, and it's U.S. Code 22. This is 2000 U.S. Code 20, Title 20, Education, Chapter 31, General Provisions, Subchapter 3, General Requirements, and it's on the subsection 1232H. That's what it's called, Protection of Pupils Acts. This is really important because this puts the power in the people's hands, the parents specifically, exactly. I'm going to read, it's just real short. All instructional materials, including teachers' manuals, films, tapes, and other supplementary material will be used in connection with any survey, analysis, or evaluation. Since they're evaluated by getting for grades, it applies to everything. As part of any applicable program shall be available for inspection by the parents or guardians of the children. So here's where it gets, so it goes on and tells about limits of survey, analysis, and evaluation. No student shall be required as part of any applicable program to submit to a survey, analysis, or evaluation that reveals information concerning, and there's 7 of them here, like things like a political affiliation, mental and psychological problems, sexual behavior or attitudes or opinions, illegal, antisocial, self-incriminating or demeaning behavior, critical appraisals of other individuals with whom respondents have close familial relationships, legally recognized privileged or analogous relationships, as attorneys, doctors, physicians, and income. So, and it says, education agencies and institutions shall give parents and students effective notice of their rights under this section. So I have a little template, if anybody's interested. It puts the power in the parents' hands. Because once you fill this out, your name and the student's name, you give it to the administrators, you're on record. This is a legal document. You violate my students' pupils' rights, federal funding can be withheld from that school. That's the power it has. And this is still in effect, but people don't know about it. They don't want us to know about it. I just thought I'd throw that out there. I've got some copies here if people want. So it's also available, there's a website, America First Legal Foundation. That's where I got it from. That's what, and I got the law right here too. I just read part of it. So that's my premise on that, putting the power back in the people's and the parents' hands. And I'd like to make a rebuttal to the young lady, Heather. I have to take it real quick. I appreciate her giving comment. I appreciate that. We don't know what's in those books. They're not available in the public library. I wonder why that would be. If I had grandkids here, I'd pull them out. But I appreciate what she's saying. We don't know this, but there's 72 books that are allowed in there in the schools that we have. On the titles themselves say a lot. So thank you very much for the comment.
Thank you. Kenneth Payne.
Hello, my name is Kenneth Payne. I just wanted to come back and check again, see if you guys had thought anything about maybe changing the policy or reviewing the policy, renewing it on being on probation and being a firefighter for the county to put houses out. Because I've talked to a lot of people who ask me why I'm not on anymore. I tell them that's the reason. And they say, we'd more rather have you there on probation to save our house and our property than lose everything. And I did it for 8.5 years. So, like I said, what Matt had commented about my case was totally wrong. I've got it with me again today. I did do something illegal. I'm sorry about it, but I was worried about my brother's life. And, you know, it actually, being with the fire department kind of saved mine because it got me away from what I used to be and got me started doing that. And, you know, I'm there all the time. I carry my gear with me 24 hours a day. If I was at a job, actually I went my own business, I left. All my customers know that, and I did fires. On wildfire crews that I get paid for, but here in the county it's volunteer, you know, and I love it. I still, to this day, I hear sirens, I can pick which one it is, you know, fire department, sheriff, state cops, ambulance, and, you know, it just jumps me up. And I also, because I live like a quarter mile from Jackrabbit Flats Fire Department, I'm trying to get my mom moved out here. She's 87, and I know there's not that many. They've got like 5 people left. I want to, if something happens, I want to have some response time, you know, someone there. And like Ben's only got 3 people now, so I know we're hurting bad for firefighters, you know. And I'm more 8.5 years I've been training and going to classes for it and everything. So I just think that it should be better for the county, you know, besides for my own wants, but to have some fire department, you know, like go over each case separately and, you know, decide that way about the probation thing, because we really need help. We had that school bus wreck the other day, and, you know, I still follow it. I hear it on my radio, on my phone. And you know, I'm still friends with a lot of the firefighters in different districts and everything. And I like the 9/11 ceremony. I make that every year. I just wear my wildland gear instead of house fires. But that's why I wanted to find out and have you guys, ask you again to please think about that, because I mean, I'm right there. So, and like I said, I was at almost 20 cows when I was in Ruidoso getting my house working. I came down every Thursday for our meetings and training. So, yeah, I just think it's something important for the county to look at. They need to, you know, we need more firefighters. So, thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Rudy Clark.
I think I'd like to speak in response to what you heard today on PowerPoint presentation. So let's talk about realistically what's going on in the schools. I have been a substitute teacher. As a matter of fact, I know your son was on the same soccer team my son was on at the high school. Okay, I have been a substitute teacher for the last 10 years. And I have seen what's in the classrooms more than anybody else because I go to all kinds of different classrooms. So let's talk about what's really going on. The real cause of is poverty. Poverty influences what happens in the schools. You saw it on that display. High Rose, Holloman, 60% of our students are below poverty level in the school district. I've seen kids who come to school in the same clothes every day. I've seen kids who are living in a car. Do you expect them to have high grades? How hard is it to make them come around? I was there at the library, and I watched the National Honor Society kids come in. 19 girls, 1 boy. What does that tell you about what's going on? Doesn't that mean something? 1 boy in 19. Poverty is the #1 cause of poor performance. That's nationwide. So let's talk about social emotional training. Walk in, take the time to go to the classrooms at the high school or any school. Yes, you can. All you have to do is go and ask at the door. Ask. All you have to do is ring the bell, they'll let you in. You ask to go through the classrooms. They will escort you to them. #1, this is what they have in the schools. In every one of the classrooms that I have been in, raise your hand to speak to the teacher. Stay in your seat and ask for permission to move. Receive permission to go to the bathroom. Put your phone away while you're in class. Disagree with conscience. So disagree correctly. Okay? Don't use the F or N word in class. That's almost in every classroom. Every week, they do a skit on how to talk to your teachers and how to disagree with one another. This is social emotional training. Think about that. You don't do this at home. Why? Because you sit down to have a dinner and everybody talks at the same time. But you can't do that in a classroom. There's certain behaviors you can do at home, but you cannot do that in school. And we've got to teach them. Because to be a member of society means you have to have certain rules that you live by.
Sir.
Your time's up, Mr. Clark.
Thank you.
Can I put myself on the agenda to speak further on this issue?
For next month, you can.
I can?
This agenda's already set, but you can request for next month.
James Cano?
You want him to go for 3 rings when he talks.
So Brian, I'll give you guys some pictures.
Sure.
Hello, my name is James Cano. I live at 27 North Yucca and Bulls Acres. I'm here to address a flooding issue. The pictures you have are of my property. There's a ditch that runs through Bulls Acres that runs underneath Highway 54. The Otero County Road Department is planning to clean up the ditch either sometime later this year or next year, or maybe possibly the following year. I have contacted Tom, and I've contacted, I believe it's Matt from the flooding advisory, or flooding the emergency services. Both of them don't know if the property north of me is private property, if they're in charge of that ditch. That ditch that runs through that northern property, the northeast bank goes to the north of my property, the northwest bank goes to the north end of my property. The center of the ditch literally runs straight into my property. And those pictures are how much water goes into my property every time it rains. And I've talked to them, both of them, and they both said, well, you need to talk to Tom or you need to talk to Matt. They said it's their, they don't know what to do. And all they tell me is that we're trying to figure out how to stop South End Road from flooding. Well, all that water that goes onto my property goes to South End Road. And I'm at a loss. I've built a 2-foot berm, tried to divert the water from my animals. My horses, they're walking in water. My goats and pigs, they get flooded every time it rains. And I don't have a big enough equipment to dig a ditch to try to divert the water. All I can do is pile up dirt as much as I can, but every time it rains, it washes my berm away, and I don't know what to do anymore. So that's where I'm at right now, and I'm asking the county to help me out in some way. I don't know if the road department can just dig me a 5-foot wide ditch along the northern part and then curve down to the south. I would be happy. Just a 4-foot wide ditch, 2 foot down, and use that dirt to build the berm up, and maybe 400 feet down, and then let it spread out to my land. I'd be happy. Would be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if you want to keep the pictures, that's fine.
Okay.
Can you
His address is on there.
put your phone number on there?
Yes, I sure can.
Would you like my email address?
No, that'll be good enough right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have a good day.
Teresa Van Winkle?
Vicki Vaughn, Agenda 21.
Oh, okay.
And
The
I
wi-
apologize for putting your name on
Okay, all right, I'll take you off this. Rhonda Merrick?
Good morning.
Good morning.
You can hear me okay, right?
You got to speak into the microphone so they can hear you at home.
Can you hear me at home? Starting, I'd like to share, if you're wanting Coy not to receive his pay for the time period that y'all talked about, we need to focus on some facts. The incident at the Capitol lasted 186 minutes. The rioting, defund the police, judges not keeping criminals under watch continues to go on to this day. You got what you wanted, you got Coy gone. Why not focus your efforts on the things that matter? Coy paid a tremendous price already for fake news. Pay him what you owe him. And keep in mind, this is not addressed to you guys. This is addressed to anyone fighting that he should pay back. That it is not to y'all. In closing, I'd like to ask you, if you've ever watched a fur baby save another, they use their mouth. This time, it's time we use our mouth to support common sense, not destruction. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Shannon, right?
Hi, my name is Shannon Wright. I'm here in support of Coy Griffin. Coy was voted by the majority of the people in our county for the good of our county. Everything he's done has been in the best interest of everybody, regardless if you voted for him or not. Just the same as when President Donald J. Trump was in office. Everything he did was for the good of our country, whether you hated his guts or not. And unfortunately, the current situation we've got right now with our administration is bad for everybody in our country, even the people that voted for him. So I guess they're getting some of theirs back. But Coy Griffin has done his job. He listens to people. He acts upon things that are good for our community, and we need to support him. I think asking for him to pay back his money is absurd, ridiculous, and the way he got ousted from office was an overreach of power. And if we don't stop it as citizens, it's going to continue to happen to every conservative, like-minded person in this country who's trying to protect our Constitution. As far as the school board goes, I'd like to commend Chuck and Arnold for their presentation. I recently have also been seen this school board and how they operate. I was asked by several people to run for that position when it became vacant on a Thursday, and it was voted on a Monday. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 5 days when they had 45 days to make that decision. One of the board members was out of town and asked if they would table it till she got back because she didn't even have a computer to see all the people's resumes, what they'd submitted. Now, they did read them, so she could hear them online, but she didn't have a chance to read through them. The other thing I'm really disappointed is the fact that I knew going into this I wasn't going to be selected, but I did it anyway. And I wanted people in this community to see how corrupt and how motivated these people are to keep people like me out of those positions. There was no discussion from any of the public allowed in that meeting, which has been that way for several meetings throughout this past 2 years. The president of the school board right now pretty much put herself in that position and ousted the lady, Miss Angie Caldwell, who was in that position without any knowledge of her even being made aware what they were going to do to her. On these school board nominations, Angie asked for those to be tabled so when she got back they could discuss them amongst themselves and look at them closely and discuss the pros and cons of each candidate. There was no background checks done on any of these people, including myself. There was no references asked about or called upon by any of these people that put in for that position, so they just went based off of a quick letter. There was no, let's see, yeah, there was no verifying references. Some of the candidates were not even able to attend. They just read their resume online. And she was asked if they would schedule it. I'm sorry, I wrote this kind of fast.
Sorry,
Time's up,
Shannon.
Mr. Wright.
Time's up.
Pardon me?
Time's up.
Well, thank you, Mr. Holmes. I'm glad you're doing something for our county.
Well, get my name correct, it's Nichols. It's easy to confuse.
Carol Hernandez.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I initially came here to support John Davis's concerns, which reflect my own. But as a lifelong educator with 2 master's degrees, I have taken a great interest in the issues presented by Mr. Andreas and his associate. I am appalled by the whipping up of false claims, exaggerations, and misconceptions presented this morning. I think it is a tempest in a teapot, and I urge a sane look at this presentation, which gives just some facts to conceal the animosity and fear promoted by these men. And I hope you will seriously consider the issues. I do think they are out of place. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Now we're ready to move on to our new business. Number 15, discuss the status of the Lawless Gate Road.
All right, I put this on the agenda so the people in Otero County we can keep them up to date on it. As you know, on this last round of selections on the DOD funding grants, we were not selected for the grant. We're going to apply again next year. We were in the top ranking of the grants. We found out what we were lacking on, so we are going to address those issues to get the grants put back together. I'm going to reach out to to Heinrich and then to Mrs. Harold also for their support on this. This is a very important issue to the Alamogordo area, to Holloman Air Force Base. It's a big issue to Otero County because this road is becoming unsafe, so it's an issue we're going to have to address before long anyway. Mr. Holmes is all, I'm sorry, Mr. Nichols.
Got that stuck in your head.
Yeah, sorry about that. Mr. Nichols is researching other areas to apply for grants for, even if it's we do half of the road right now. So kind of at this time, oh, and one other thing also, I'm trying to get a meeting set up with the county. I'll get Mr. Nichols and the county manager and myself, and I'm going to see how we can arrange it if Commissioner Markwart can join too. We're going to get a meeting with the new commander at the base. We're going to discuss this. We're going to find out a little more of his priorities or his ideas on it and get some more recommendations to apply for this grant again next year. So I'm going to let Mr. Nichols kind of ad-lib a little bit more. He knows more on the response and what has happened on this right now.
Yeah, so I believe it was last Thursday, we had a meeting with the people in charge of the grant, and they provided us feedback with where our grant was and what we could do to have better chances next year. We were actually 19 out of 106 grants submitted, so that's really good. To improve our chances, our letter from the base commander needs to hit some other wickets. There's certain criteria that they consider, and we didn't have that in our letter, but I'm certain that we can. One of them is mission and military readiness. The Lawley Skate Road's very critical to base access, potential base evacuation. There's a lot of things that we can write about in there. We just, in the upcoming months, need to establish a relationship with the command out there so we can have open lines of communication, and we can work on having the best letter of support possible that will get us higher in the points for that grant. There's also the Defense Access Road Program. That has to be initiated by the base. It's another grant. We can't submit for it ourselves. They have to do that. So another reason we want to open the lines of communication with the commander and have that relationship going forward so we can go after this project with as many avenues as possible.
Can you explain a little bit on that the other grant we're kind of looking at, or maybe not a grant, but the other proposal of funding issue that you was telling me about the other day?
The Defense Access Road Program, if we could get some funding for it, it may help our chances with this other grant. If we have partial funding in place, it'll look better for the grant that we did go after. If we have $5 million secured already, then they're going to be more. It'll get us higher in the point system, and we can actually start some of the project with that.
So anyway, I was just trying to get this out in the air so everybody's kind of aware of what's going on. The county did spend this $360,000 to get the whole design. It is a shovel ready. We could put it out to bid tomorrow. So we're keeping that package together. We know our items that we need to add to it to put a little more icing on the cake for it, and we're going after it with both feet again in July of this next year. So we're getting our other pinpoints added to it, and we're going to get a little more support and backing behind it, and we're going to see if we can get it done. So I just wanted everybody to know nobody's trying to hide anything or anything like that. We just keep it all out in the open. And that's the only reason why I wanted to bring this up.
Okay,
So,
all right, thank you. All right, moving on to item number 16, request to schedule a public meeting to discuss and hear public comment on the use of ATVs and UTVs and on 244 to Mescalero, Highway 130 from Cloudcroft to Mayhill, Road 65, 63 Sunspot Highway, and Highway 130 to Pinon.
I was approached by Mr. Nix. If you'd like to come on up. What he's presenting to do is some of the off highways for people to be able to drive their ATVs, UTVs. There's several roads open already. These are just trying to get a few additional ones. Some of the other counties around have implemented a deal and got this done. So I approached Sheriff Black and asked him his thoughts on this. He is in favor of it. What he would like to do is schedule a public meeting so we can get all the public input for everybody that's involved in it, through the mountains, through anybody downtown. One thing I wanted to make understand that we didn't say here, that this on 244, it's only opening the road to the Mescalero fence. It's not going to allow you to go all the way through Mescalero onto Highway 70. So just so everybody understands. So Matt, I'll let you kind of give a little where you came up with this and your wants.
Well, there's been several times. Of course, we have access from the city of Alamogordo through county roads and stuff to get up into the Lincoln, up through Bailey in that area. But there's so much more trails and Forest Service roads that can be accessed that legally you can't get to. So was approached to submit this and try and get these portions of the Lincoln area, these roads opened up to give more access to other areas for people to have recreation in.
And one of the things you got to keep in mind too on this is just on the state highways that these are. This is not going to allow ATVs or UTVs to go off on any private property roads, closed trails, or anything like this. They still have to abide by all the other state rules, the forest trail rules, and everything like that. It's just opening up a little more access. I think it would be a big revenue gain for Cloudcroft, Mayhill, and, and some of the towns in the Tiburon. So it would be, I think it would be a profitable deal. You see ATVs, you go to the northern part of the state, different states, and they're driving all over. They have rules and regulations that they have to abide by, so which is not much different than a regular vehicle. So, Pamela, how long would it take to try to get a...
So for advertising purposes, we have to advertise 14 days in advance, and we have to have time to get the paper. The earliest you could have a meeting is November 1st.
November 1st?
Yes.
Okay. Will we try to have it across the street, or will we have it here?
It depends. It's up to you. If you think you're going to get that good of a turnout, we can see if we can have it across the street.
Matt, do you think there's very many, would it fill up this room?
I'm thinking this may be adequate here.
In here? So let's
Okay.
try to schedule it for in
So
here.
do you want to do November 1st? Do you want to do?
What day of the week is that?
It is a Tuesday. It's the day after Halloween. And do you want to do daytime, or do you want to do it 6 p.m.?
I think it would be better for the evening to get the people
Yeah.
to make sure we're gonna, anybody, so,
November 1st at 6 p.m.?
yeah.
Okay.
Matt, I wanna thank you for bringing this up.
Thank you. I appreciate you hearing me about this, and hopefully we can continue on and make it good for everybody.
All right.
Question, is Highway 130 Fox Canyon?
Yes.
And that would be from Cloudcroft all the way around to the Mayhill, where it comes to the Mayhill entrance.
And then also the intersection of that and 24 to Pinon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt. Okay, number 17, request the Board of County Commissioners select and prioritize the capital outlay projects for submission to the New Mexico Legislature.
All right, Commissioners, it's that time of year again to select 5 projects to submit to the legislatures for funding. I have given you a copy of your ICIP, of your plan, and there are a total of 7 projects on there. You will need to select 5, and you will need to prioritize what order you want them in. It does not matter what order they are on the ICIP.
Oh, it doesn't?
No, it does not.
We went through this earlier on these, and the only one that, well, I'll say mine 1 through 7, which 1 would be the supplement, the guardrails, 2 is the public safety facility, 3 is the sheriff office relocation, 4 is the sheriff office fleet, 5 is the courthouse addition and remodel, 6 would be the road equipment purchase, and 7 would be Railroad Avenue Bridge.
You can only select 5, not
I
7.
know, I'm just putting those
Okay, so that
in
would
my order.
that would leave the existing 5
Yeah.
as your 5.
Yeah, that's what we had talked about last time. I agree with that.
Okay. That was easy. Yeah. Wow, thanks.
See, this
Did you
hand-
want to change the funding amount on the courthouse?
Well-
We discussed that earlier?
I had talked to Marty Escobar yesterday, the attorney that's helping us with the courthouse lawsuit, and he suggested that we ask for more money. Instead of the 6 million, he asked for that first phase to be 10, because it's easier to ask for more and get less, but I didn't know if we had to go back out for
You
bid?
don't, I'll have to bring the ICIP back to you for revision.
Okay,
Because it has to match our capital outlay. So next month, the ICIP will come back to you with the revision there.
okay.
Do you have time for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Yeah, because capital outlay will be submitted November 19th, so we can have the ICIP changed prior to that.
Okay.
And then in addition, for the capital outlay legislative hearing, it is virtual again this year.
Okay.
The chairman typically does it, so you're relieved of duty if you want.
can
It
come.
will be December 15th at 10 a.m. It will be in room 101 here, and I will have all appropriate staff that has projects there for supporting the project in case you have questions.
Did you say at 10 a.m.?
At 10 a.m., December 15th. So that would be the sheriff, Trent, and Tom, and Matt that need to be available as well. But I'll send out an invite.
Okay. All right.
So we need to vote on this.
Yep, let me flip back here so I can get back.
Well, if we want to do additions to the dollar amount, do we still need to vote on this, or we need to bring it back for amendment?
No, we can select the amount next month with the ICIP.
Okay.
And we already said 10 million, so I already know the number to tweak it.
Okay. All right. I make a motion for the Board of County Commissioners, to select and prioritize their capital outlay projects for submission to the New Mexico legislature. Did I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All righty. Okay, number 18, request approval of a memorandum of understanding between Otero County Headquarters, United States Garrison, Fort Bliss, Texas, for construction, use, and maintenance of 5 crossings over NMCR A506 agreement, number IMW 45C21-22-027-MOU. Do you want to speak to that?
Sure.
Harvey?
So commissioners, we've had issues on the 506 with the damage that's resulted from tracked heavy military vehicles out on their training grounds and them going on the 506. We still have a open claim for the damage that has occurred up until this point. This agreement here is the way forward. What the Army has proposed is building 5 reinforced concrete crossings so that their vehicles can traverse the 506 without causing damage. And so they've agreed to make those 5 crossings at certain points on the 506. What is I'd draw your attention to is paragraph 3, subparagraph F and G. F, it says the parties agree and understand that military tracked vehicles or heavy military vehicle usage on the 506 will be limited to the 5 crossings that they're building. And then in paragraph G, that the military tracked vehicles, if they inadvertently use the 506 and road damage occurs, we can seek reimbursement, and we have to do that through the claims process that we're going through now. What it'll be incumbent upon us going forward is to be diligent about identifying damage that does occur and submitting the claim, being able to document it and prove that it was due to tracked vehicle usage where it shouldn't be, because that is, I'll talk more about, well, I can talk about it now. With the claim right now, they've come back and they want us to distinguish damage that has occurred from normal wear and tear and use and damage that has occurred as a result of military tracked vehicles. So I've got to get with Tom, and I don't know how we're going to do that, but we're going to have to come up with some type of ideas. But that's why it's going to be important going forward. We get a report that a tank is rolling down 506, get a picture of it with a date stamp, and look for any damage that it does cause to the road. We're looking at other options for grants between me and Tom to get the 506 paved. and it would be easier to identify damage if it's paved, but that's all down the road. But this agreement is good. It's a step forward. It's a step in the right direction. The Army will be paying for these 5 crossings, and they'll be maintaining them.
And we do have some bids already turned in on the repair work.
We do, but now I've got to go back on the email I just got this morning, and they want us to distinguish what would be normal repairs compared to actual damage caused by tanks. And well, Tom and I are going to have to get creative, so we'll see what we can come up with.
I also need, if I can get a copy of what's going on right now. There's a group going back to DC to talk about this. So if you can get me a group or a package
A
to
summary.
where they can have some, kind of, that they can go and talk to them back there too.
I think they're going this week, aren't they?
It's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Tom Porter, Otero County Road Department. RB, getting the repairs from the past, it won't be that difficult. All we'll have to do is pull the dailies from the district operator for the 2 or 3 times a year for the last 5 years that he's been in there doing maintenance.
Okay.
So that won't be very difficult.
That's good news.
Okay, all right, thanks, Tom.
But I guess bottom line, I recommend that you approve this agreement.
Okay, all right. Any more discussion?
No.
Okay, all right. I make a motion to request the approval of a memorandum of understanding between Otero County and Headquarters, United States Army Garrison, Fort Bliss, Texas, for construction, use, and maintenance of 5 crossings over NMCR-A506, agreement number IMW 45C 21-22-027-MOU.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, passed. Okay, number 19, request approval of an easement between Otero County and Tularosa Basin Telephone Company for fiber optic lines on county property for the narcotics building.
Afternoon again. Basically what this is, with the PSAP, we've identified that with our narcotics building, we've got terrible connection between the two. We need to upgrade that. We've talked with the fiber optic people, and basically the fairgrounds on the north side where the horses, the horse trailers and all that stuff park, that chain link fence, they have a box right at the corner by the road over there, and they need to run from there to the narcotics building, which is what, it's about 80 feet, 90 feet, something like that. I think that's what the map said. It's county property, but before they will do that, they wanted to get easement, permission from the county to put that fiber optic line in. And it's going to be, we're going to have it to be able to communicate with the new dispatch center.
I have no problem with that. It's pretty much all on our property anyway, so.
Yeah, that's all they're asking for is permission to bury it on our property, so.
All right. Well, that's easy. Okay, I make a motion to approve an easement between Otero County and Tularosa Basin Telephone Company for fiber optic lines on county property for the narcotics building. Get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, you got it. Okay, you're up again.
Yes, ma'am.
Number 20, request the Board of County Commissioners to appoint a member to serve on the PSAP board.
Again, the PSAP, the Consolidated Dispatch, we have a 10-person board, 4 from the county, 4 from the city, and 2 from Cloudcroft. Corey Griffin was the representative from the county. I am now asking for volunteers, one of you two, to represent the county as a commissioner on the PSAP board.
I'm all for it. If Vicki wants to do it, it does. I'm sure both of us are more than willing to do it, so
Yeah.
whichever.
I'm happy to do it unless you really want to do it.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll do it.
You got one.
Cool,
Okay.
thank you.
Do we need to vote on that?
Yes, please.
Okay. Make a motion for the Board of County Commissioners to appoint a member to serve on the PSAP board.
I'll second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Okay, number 21, request approval of a letter of support of the Cancer Awareness Prevalence Presentation and Early Detection for their Trinity Turtle Healing Labyrinth Park.
How you doing, Teresa?
Working hard, trying to stay sweet.
Trying to stay sweet. Let me know how that works for you.
I'll second that.
I wanted to kind of give you an update. It's been a couple of years since I've been here. Excuse me, this is Teresa Van Winkle. I'm with the CAPT organization. Thank you. This is the diagram for the new improvement that we're making on the park. We've invested at this point a little over $300,000 in this property and the improvements on it. And in the end of 2019, we estimated the cost to finish this park to be a total of about $600,000. With what has happened in the interim, we realize it's going to be more like $750,000 total. So we are working on grants. We are currently shovel ready for concrete on the entire blue area that you see here. And that's going to entail approximately 750 yards of concrete. So there's a lot of work to be done. I put in a request for a letter of support for one specific grant, but I want to use it on several. And after I went ahead, I had to turn that proposal in without your letter. But I'm going to send your letter forward. But one of the things that I noticed is that it looks like we fall under part of the Otero County Comprehensive Plan as far as the recreational opportunities, because what we are creating is a very safe hiking trail out on the highway with beautiful views of the mountains to the east and the west. It is going to be totally handicapped accessible, and it's going to meet ADA compliance with a ramp and also the level surface. So I was asking if you might include that in your letter of support, that it does fall under not for us to request funding from the county for this, but that it fits into the plan that the county has for improvements in trails and recreation to make things more accessible to everyone.
We can probably get
You
RB to
You
amend
can
that.
change the language, you just have to put in your motion the additional language or change you're making, and then we'll make that.
Okay.
And then we'll give a letter back to you to sign after it's corrected.
Okay, so what do we need to add into the wording?
Some words to the effect that this project is in support or furtherance of the Otero County Comprehensive Plan and supports the goals and initiatives in regard to community facilities and hiking trails. For the purposes of the motion, I would just say adding that it supports the Otero County Comprehensive Plan.
I like that better. All right. I'll make a motion to approve a letter of support of the cancer awareness prevalence presentation and early detention for their Trinity Turtle Healing Labyrinth Park. And we'll also add in that it supports the Otero County Comprehensive Plan. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All approve? Aye.
Aye.
I'm getting tongue twisted. Okay.
So,
We should have had more discussion, and I would invite you to come out. If you haven't walked it, please come walk it.
I drive by it all the time, but I haven't watched it yet.
Especially when there's kids there.
Yeah.
It is so neat to watch kids walk this thing. It's neat.
Yeah, it is nice.
One of the most amazing things about a labyrinth is the simple act of walking it reduces stress by 80%. And chronic stress is the #1 killer in the world today.
Amen.
It is. So please take the time to stop and walk the children's labyrinth. You can be in and out in 15 minutes and you will feel so much better. It's open to the public 24/7. We have solar lights. There's no charge. And we're hoping there will never be a charge. So please use this. This is why we built it.
All right, thank you.
thank you very much.
Okay, number 22, request approval to purchase lease tracking software per GASB 87 requirement. Ms.
Good morning,
Julianne,
Commissioners.
good morning.
So as of the fiscal year 22 reporting date, government entities are now required to report uniformly on capital and operating leases for the Government Accounting Standards Board, or GASB, Statement 87. And due to the complexity of some of Otero County's lease management agreements, the calculation of the amortization is quite complicated. So I put a question out to the Finance and Purchasing Affiliate for New Mexico counties, and I got back several responses, and most of the other counties in New Mexico are also using lease tracking software. It makes it a lot easier for reporting purposes to be able to generate the correct amortization calculations for the auditors when they come in to prepare our financial audit. The 3 companies that are used by most other counties is DebtBook, Lease Query, and Visual Lease. And I did go ahead and speak to representatives from each of those companies, and I did get some proposals. These products, they track leases, the renewals, they provide the calculations. Some of them also track some other information. Right now, we currently have 23 leases between copiers, postage machines. There's an equipment lease at the road department. There's at least 10 lease management agreements, and there's the agreements down in Chaparral for the MTC, the Prison and Processing Center. So a lot of these 3 companies, they charge based upon the number of agreements or leases that you have, number of records. And of the 3 of them, honestly, any one of them would probably work for us. I did speak with our auditor about it, and she said so long as it meets your needs and is able to do the calculations, probably any one of them would work. Of course, the one that I like the best is the one that is the most expensive. It's called DebtBook. The thing I like about that one is it's for local governments only. That's all they work with, are local municipalities and counties. It also tracks your bonds. So the bonds that we have continuing disclosure on annually, as well as some of them require arbitrage and just the bond payments. It's a good thing to have that all in one place instead of having to try to pull information together annually for the ones that have that requirement. It's all in one place. Now that particular program is $9,750 per year. It does also include, there is GASB Statement 96, which will be coming out next year. And that has to do with software, I guess it's subscriptions. So because we have 23 leases right now, I'm not exactly sure how many of our software, I guess, agreements would be considered a subscription, but potentially the maintenance agreements that we have on, for example, the Microsoft 365 that we're transitioning to, potentially telephone leases even for the software for the phone system that's going to be a voice over IP. Also our Tyler financial system, the Eagle financial system that the treasurers and the assessors use. So there are some additional requirements that we'll have additional contracts or additional records that will need to be tracked with GASB 96, and that will come out for fiscal year '23. So debt book already includes the GASB 96. Lease query, which is the next one I looked at, that one does not include the GASB 96. It's an additional $1,000 a year. And we would probably need like the mid-level 26 to 40 lease records, $5,300 a year. So with the $1,000 for GASB 96, it'd be $6,300 a year. And the last company I looked at was called Visual Lease, up to 50 leases. It would be $5,000 a year, but there's also the first year a one-time implementation fee of $1,500. Ongoing Visual Lease would be the least expensive. And like I said, any one of these would really probably fulfill our needs. So I'm okay with whatever you want to approve for budget. It is something that I believe is very important that we do have going forward. It's going to make things a lot easier just for the tracking and the reporting purposes. It's something that's a little bit too difficult to try and calculate manually. So we really do need some sort of software.
You and I had a little conversation this morning on this, and you're still standing behind what you selected? You're still good with that?
Well, I mean, like I said, I did like the debt book. I know that the representative I spoke with said if cost is an issue for that one, we could potentially negotiate the cost down. But I think even the negotiated cost is still going to be more than the other products. So I'm not necessarily going to be the only end user of this. The county manager's office tracks a lot of the leases, and then the purchasing department handles like the postage machines and the copiers. So there will be other people. It's not going to be just me. So we need something that everyone who is involved in it is going to feel comfortable with using. And you know, of these, I think honestly any of them would probably be fine. I'm fine with going with Visual Lease, which is the least expensive product. I know that their reporting is very customizable. You can actually go in and every field that's available in the product, you can literally drag and drop it into a report in the order that you need it, which is helpful.
You talked about all the leases. Do they charge by the lease? Or is it just a one-time deal? I mean, can we group some of those leases together into one deal?
I think it said up to 50 was included, right? And then
Yeah, so we could potentially go down, well, actually, I think the first level on the Visual Lease, I'll have to check that again, may have been up to 50 on their proposal. Let me take a look at that.
I think I read somewhere it's up to 50, and then it was like $75 each after that, or something like that.
So on that one, yeah, it's up to that's the first level, I believe, of what they offer, as up to 50 leases. Now, potentially, we could, if we go with lease query, especially the first year. This first year, because we only have 23 leases right now, we could go with them. It's only $3,500 in for the first year if we go with lease query. And then next year when GASB 96 is implemented, we would have the additional $1,000 fee. And then if we go over 25 leases, there would be an additional charge. I believe it's like $150 a month, which essentially would be the difference between the $3,500 and the $5,300 for 26 to 40 leases. So lease query might be an option. That is actually going to be probably the least expensive to start with. I think that is possibly a little bit simpler to use than the Visual Lease, so that might be our best option. I'm open to any one of these. I don't want to spend a lot of money on this, but I do want to be able to have something that is going to allow us to provide the information that our auditors are going to need without having to try and do manual calculations.
But if we can't compact some of these into one deal, I'm sure we're going to have more leases coming in the future.
We'll only have more leases if you rent out, purchase more buildings, you know, like our community centers, copiers, postage machines. I don't foresee us getting a lot more of those.
Right.
Everybody's pretty much set. I don't think you're going to see a big increase in the number of leases.
I just wanted to make sure we get an adequate deal if we do grow, that we're covered on it,
Right.
and we got room to.
And like I said, I think the only increase in the number of records is going to be for when GASB 96 becomes effective in fiscal year 23 for reporting for 23, and that's going to be for our software subscription. So at that point, We may have to bump it up to the next level, just to make sure that we have, that we're covered with the number of records or number of subscriptions that we have. But I think lease query, at least to start with, is going to be our,
Let me ask you a question on that, Julianne. If Tom, for example, he leases equipment, say he leases 10 pieces of equipment, is that just one line item, or is that 10 separate?
it's going to be probably 3 separate individual
Because
leases.
I can see where we could get into a lease deal and lease more, so
True.
my feeling is to go with one that's got a little bit more, gives us a little gray area
Right.
to roll into.
So I think it's between lease query or visual lease. Really, it's, yeah, it would end up being, if we went with lease query, once we went over that 25 number of leases and GASB 96 comes into effect, it's going to be $6,300 a year. Visual lease would be $5,000. And of course, you know, these are current rates. I would imagine any of these software companies, at some point, they're going to increase their costs or their maintenance agreement fees. That's just the nature of you know, capitalism. But I think, you know, either one, lease query, visual lease, would be a good option. And you know, I mean, I did put a dollar amount of up to $10,000 on the budget adjustment that can be reduced to the amount that we're looking at. So perhaps what I do is we can reduce it down to about $6,500, which would cover either one of these, lease query or visual lease. And I can, you know, talk with both of those representatives again and just make sure, and probably have Sylvia as well as maybe Cynthia in purchasing also review some of the data and see which one they feel most comfortable with. Because either one is going to be, the first year, it's going to be a fairly comparable price. If you're open to allowing me to decide between lease query or visual lease.
I'm capable of signing that.
Okay.
You don't have to. You just need to give us the budget for it.
Okay.
Well, we just signed a new contract with the Chaparral Community Center, right?
That's included.
That's included.
So if we do the relocation of the sheriff's office, and we have the sheriff's office that's available now, and then
You
we,
could sell it and put it back on the tax rolls.
Just saying.
You
so
could.
I see there's areas that this could gain. That's why I'm just saying.
I don't think you're going to see 10, 20. You're going to see a handful over the next 2-3 years, probably.
Which in that case, either lease query or visual lease would work, because lease query, if we went up to the middle level or the next level of 26 to 40 leases, $5,300 a year, I think that would be, that's pretty close to, you know, the visual lease, at least to start with. And then of course GASB 96, they're going to charge an extra $1,000.
Do both lease query and visual lease, they both bump it up $1,000 for that?
No, actually, visual lease, that already includes GASB 96, so that price is not going to change. That would be, but they're the only one, they have an implementation fee, a one-time fee of $1,500, and then from that point, it's up to 50 records, or 50 leases, for $5,000 a year.
I mean, that kind of sounds like the deal.
What's that?
That kind of sounds like the deal. I mean, if
Yeah.
that already includes the other that you were
It already
thinking
includes the other
about.
one. That would be the least expensive. Lease query, the very first year, because GASB 96 is not implemented yet, we could go with the up to 25 leases for $3,500 the first year, but then it would bump up to, potentially, if we get more leases, it could bump up to $6,300 a year. So, yeah, I mean, I'm fine with visual lease. Like I said, I'm fine with any one of these. I think any one of them is going to meet our needs, and I'm also good with trying to save the county a little bit of money, so.
Well, I would be willing to say like 6,500 and then let you get the two of them in a bidding war and see
Okay.
who wants our business the most.
That would be great.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I make a motion for the approval to purchase lease tracking software per GASB 87 requirement.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, happy shopping, Julianne.
Thank you.
Okay, number 23, request approval of increase to the budget for the Appler Road project in the amount of $69,377.02.
Good morning.
Hi, Tom.
So unfortunately, with the way the economy's twisted this last year, the cost of all the stuff has gone up. And with what we had out of the grant versus what we're running short on, you have numbers in front of you, we're exactly that much short. And that's with us taking over the dirt work and the riprap, so getting that out of the contractor's hands.
I totally understand material. It's a nightmare, believe me. That nice little word called inflation. I understand. I mean, I wish we could keep it to where we had in the fund, but I do understand that this was a year ago when it started and everything is drastically changed. So, I mean, it's something that needs to get done. I don't think we had much choice in it, to tell you the truth.
Julianne, do we have the money?
I think we could absorb this from our 1/4% hold harmless gross receipts tax revenue. That's usually where we put overflows like this from projects, and basically $70,000, and we could do that.
Okay. All righty. Any more comment?
No, all these other projects, I hope they don't we have to run through this same scenario.
On the bright side, we're supposed to start this Monday, Mother Nature permitting.
She can be cantankerous sometimes. All right. Make a motion to approve for the approval of increase to the budget for the Appler Road project in the amount of $69,377.02.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Oh, and we got another one from you. Okay, number 24, discuss and consider taking action on the road maintenance of the Rosa del Sol subdivision.
Okay, this is a subdivision that was built roughly back in 2004. I don't know how it fell in the cracks. The road department has been doing maintenance on these roads roughly since 2012, and it had never been officially accepted by the commission. The roads are up to county spec. We just need to accept the subdivision for maintenance.
So it's not even something new. We've been doing it already.
We've been doing it for the last 8 years, yes.
Just need to get it put in the books as a county.
Mhm.
Well, you've been out there. You know what's going on. So.
It's in good shape.
Okay.
Commissioners, when you make your motion, if you could please correct it to say, accept the subdivision for road maintenance. Instead of just taking action, we need to specify what kind of
Oh.
action you're taking.
To accept. Okay, I'll make a motion to take action to accept the road maintenance of the Rosa del Sol subdivision.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you, Commissioners.
thank you. Okay, Commissioner, you have your list of stuff?
Yes, this past month, I went to a Pecan Weevil meeting in Tularosa. It was the second of 2 meetings that they've had down there. I wasn't very happy with it when I left. I feel it's another thing, same thing as what, maybe I shouldn't say this out loud, but
Go ahead.
the same thing the
I was
Forest
there too.
Service is doing to our forest, and the same thing that the BLM is starting to implement to our ranchers on the grazing. What they're dominating, what they're talking about doing is going to eliminate Otero County and surrounding counties to where they have to take their pecans to either Roswell or go to Texas, which they would be graded to a lower level, or pay the expense to go to Donna Ana, and they have to be freeze, quarantined, which is another big added expense. What this whole picture boils down to is the whole Donna Ana pecan industry over there, which is the dominant part of it. They don't have to abide by these rules. They're even bringing pecans in from Mexico straight on up. So I find it really hard to believe that the rest of the state has pecan weevils and Donna Ana County has none. So like I say, that's going to be a fight for the farmers. It's going to be a very economic impact on them, because when you start downgrading your product, that means you're getting less price per pound for them and stuff like that. So I'm afraid you're going to start seeing a lot of these orchards around the state. They're going to probably start shutting down because they just can't pay the bills to do it. The water is one of the biggest ones, the biggest expense. Last Monday I went to a meeting in Chaparral. It was mainly a meet the candidate deals. Chaparral, the first Monday of every month, they have a community meeting down there that I've been attending since COVID. They're having another meeting tonight. It's with the representatives down there, which doesn't affect Otero County. Well, let me back that up a little. It doesn't affect Alamogordo like what it used to. District 53 used to come up all the way to the golf course area. Now when they redistrict stuff, they've moved it down. But it is part of my district as for a commissioner part, so I'm very interested in that. Again, like you heard on item 16, I met with Sheriff Black and Matt Nix on the ATV, UTV use of the roads. Of course, with all the rains, your phone rings. You got a lot of flooding. Another one just like the one in Bowles Acres that the gentleman brought up to us. So I'll address that with Tom and Matt, and we'll talk about that later. I still feel if we can implement a maintenance, a drainage ditch, arroyo, bar ditch maintenance crew, we're going to start eliminating a lot of this flooding problems on some people. But this is going to be a thing we're going to have to figure out how to work, because it is a very added expense that would have to come up and try to figure out how to get rid of. Yesterday, Commissioner Mark Wart and I both attended a meeting. It was just a listening deal. There's a company out of El Paso wanting to come up to the Alamogordo area and build a apartment complex. This building is going to have 156 units in it. They're everything from a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom. They're on the level of the Las Ventanas apartment complex. Supposed to be a gated, secure complex. I think Alamogordo area is in need of some new apartments. The last one that's been built here was Las Ventanas 22 years ago. So that kind of tells you the age of a lot of our apartment complexes. So it was very interesting. They're asking some help from the county, mainly through the property tax deals. The assessors were over there yesterday. They said they're working on a plan to try to help them. It would bring a lot of jobs, a lot of revenue to the community. So it was a very interesting deal. It's not set in stone yet. He still has a little bit of work to get figured out, but it's very interesting. I think it would be a great add to Alamogordo area. The location is on Moonglow, 305 Moonglow, which is right behind the Casarina, the retirement home, and right there, right above Yucca. and that little subdivision right there. So, let's hope we can get something that would, we do have a housing shortage, so this, we need something like this. So I'm kind of anxious for the next meeting to see what else happens. And that's pretty much what I've been up to.
All right, since our last meeting, I attended the New Mexico Department of Agriculture meeting in Tularosa about the pecan weevil, and I agree with what Commissioner Matherly says. It seems like they're kind of coming hard after our pecan farmers, and it's going to be a tough road for them to stay in business for the smaller orchards, because they're not going to have the equipment that the bigger orchards have in Las Cruces. Of course, we don't want to infect Las Cruces either. That's a huge economy for New Mexico. So we want to protect Donna Ana County. We don't want to send anything over there, but we want to be fair to our farmers here. I also went up to the New Mexico State Fair this year. They had what they call the Gathering of the Counties, and so each county was allotted a space that you could put up a tent and you could display what you had from your county. So it was my goal to only take stuff from Otero County. It had to be raised here, made here, whatever. So I actually took some white sand up there legally, and people were fascinated with it. And Nichols Farm was gracious, and they gave me some apples and honey and some cool stuff to take up. Cadwalder's Farm sent some stuff. We had a display for Holloman Air Force Base, Ski Cloudcroft, the zoo here in town. People were fascinated that we had a zoo. So many people had no clue what all we had in Otero County. So I felt like it was very beneficial to be up there. And it was kind of funny because the county sitting next to us, I heard him say, "We got to step up our game. Otero County's kicking our ass." So that made me feel good. So we'll definitely do that next year. I also worked at the White Sands Balloon Music Festival, and the weather was great. We were sad the balloons didn't get to go up, but they flew Sunday from the White Sands. We attended the Otero County Livestock Sale, and Commissioner Matherly and I went in with a group and helped purchase an animal for the kids, and it was a great fair. They had a great turnout, and they really brought in some good money this year. I also had my New Mexico Association of County State Board meeting in Las Cruces on the 29th and 30th of September. And I enjoy these meetings because we're not in this alone. All of the counties are suffering for the same things that we're going through right now with our shortage of people to hire for our detention centers and our jails. And the courthouse funding is a big issue. And so we voted on what we wanted to address at the state legislature this year in January. And courthouse funding was in our top 3. So I'm hoping we'll get some help with that. Yesterday, like Commissioner Matherly said, we attended a meeting at the Center of Commerce about the new apartment complex, and a big need that the community has right now is for military housing. So they're really hoping to focus on military, because if we can't house these people, we're going to be in trouble with our base, and we can't lose Holloman. And then last night I attended an event over at the Flickinger Center and helped out with that, and it was sponsored by Main Gate United, and it was to honor the teachers in our community. It was a really nice event. Everybody seemed to really enjoy it. They had the California Guitar Trio there, and the teachers got to eat free. They got to get into the concert for free. And the teachers from Tularosa and Mescalero were extremely gracious and thankful to have, that done for them. So I just wanted to kind of update you guys on that. So that's all I got.
All right, Commissioners, real quick, the first thing I wanted to let you know, the bid for the privatization of the jail will go out and hit the paper tentatively next Sunday.
Okay.
So that's being finalized. Matt and I met this last month at the State Fire Marshal's office. One of the requirements to get funding from the State Fire Marshal is that they inspect all of our departments. They did inspect them. We had a few departments with some minor discrepancies and problems that'll be corrected. We did have 2 departments put on probation because of the issues that they had. They will be re-inspected in 90 days. The chiefs have already responded with how they're going to correct those discrepancies. And then Kelly Goss brought it up. I was going to bring it up anyway, about the weed fire department and where the trash is being dumped.
Mm-hmm.
And you may be aware the horses have been a problem getting into the containers, creating a mess, the fire department constantly having to clean up. I have been up there. I met with Tom Ward, who works with the community, and Tom Porter, and we're looking at ways to put cattle guard in. As you know, that's a really big opening. There's no fencing all the way around. So I had Tom and Matt take a look at it. One of my concerns was if we put cattle guards in, the way it's sloped, if we're gonna direct floodwaters into the department.
Right.
So Matt took a look at it, they came up with the plan. It's gonna cost close to $28,000 to put the cattle guards in. This is labor, everything. Tom Ward stated to me, I don't have it confirmed, that the fire department will pay for the fencing. So I'm gonna be bringing that to you next month to see if we can find funding to get that done.
So we'd be doing a cattle guard and a fence?
The fence would have to go from the edges of the cattle guard
Right.
around.
Okay.
But if we can get a commitment from the fire department, that would be great. Matt says they do have funding in their department to pay for things like that. So that'll come back to you next month, and then we'll see if we can get that done.
Okay.
So if Kelly brings it up to you, I'm looking into it.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
One thing, Pamela, before you, the little, we had the inspection and stuff on the training center. Is that issue getting taken care of?
The committee that oversees the training center is working on addressing the issues. They have come up with price quotes to find out how much it would correct and to bring the system up to par where it needs to be. And it's been brought, or it is being brought, to the Fire Association because they do have some funding they could possibly pay for it.
Okay.
So it's in the works.
Morning, Commissioners. As I stated earlier, the past month, we worked on the 506 issue. We got the MOU signed today. We got the email update from them today on the claim, and it sounds like Tom and I will be able to answer their questions, and we'll see how that adjusts the claim and go from there. And then, as I spoke earlier, I attended a virtual meeting on the Lawley's Gate Road grant, got feedback from that we'll use for next year. I've been meeting with Alamo SAR and the Sheriff's Department, working on a mutual aid agreement that'll allow the Sheriff's Department to utilize the search and rescue group here locally and the assets that they bring to the table. What we're working on is ensuring that that they're covered under insurance, and that we're working in the confines of New Mexico law, as they're typically activated by the state police, but the Sheriff's Department is seeking to be able to activate them sooner when needed for search and rescue issues. So hopefully we'll have some type of agreement in place in the next week or so. Working code enforcement issues, want to get focus on that more. Hopefully there'll be some more time to do that in the upcoming months, but one situation where I didn't feel that threats of fines, and was going to resolve the issue because appears to be poverty and mental health issues, and fines just aren't going to combat that. I was able to find a group that is willing to clean up the property for free and do it as part of community service. So we'll see how that works out, and hopefully it's an approach that we can add to our toolbox for these type of situations going forward. Working with Matt and Tom on flooding issues, still it's ongoing, and we're addressing each property at a time, but also trying to figure out a county-wide approach that will make sense and be financially feasible. I submitted a letter to the U.S. Forest Service on behalf of the county this past month. You were copied on that. I also submitted an IG complaint as you directed. Worked on the RFP for the detention center and passed it to purchasing, and they're finalizing it now, and like Pamela said, it'll be out next Sunday. I wanted to clarify, last meeting I brought up our need to look at past votes by Commissioner Griffin. It does not mean that we're going to remove those votes. Still working to figure out what the the district judge ruling means legally, and taking any action, whether it be on salary or votes, prior to the appeal would be premature and ill-advised. So we'll see what happens with the appeal, consulting with other attorneys. We're just exploring all options, making sure that we are ready to do what is necessary to stay in the confines of the law and what would be required of the county. And if there's discretion for the commissioners, that's one thing I'll be looking at, and I'll keep you posted on that and apprised on what we have to do, where there's discretion, and we'll see where that all shakes out. On that note, I've been corresponding with the governor's office on filling the vacancy. It's been frustrating. They've not been very helpful, and they keep referring to rules that don't exist. They don't know the process themselves, and so they're just saying, check the rules. Well, there are no rules. There's what the New Mexico Constitution says on the matter, and then I can't find anything else in there. So what they're asking for is a letter notifying them of the vacancy. At this point, there's 2 meetings left. I don't know if there's any point, but based on what the commission would like me to do, I can send that letter, or we can just ride this out till the election happens. It doesn't seem that
I would rather to just write it out. I mean, we're in such short time to get people's names in, get them on. I mean, we're looking at 2 more meetings. I don't see how that's possible.
Yeah, that's kind of how I see it, but.
I'm not even sure you'd be able to get it all done in time by the December meeting.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth, by the time the paperwork process.
So right now, we'll just write it out.
Okay. The clerk's office and I are still working through the election audit report, and we'll hopefully have something soon to report back to you on that. 2 different citizens in the state have filed lawsuits against the Secretary of State along the lines of what we were exploring doing. So in addition to researching it myself, I'm watching those lawsuits to see how they pan out and see if there's anything viable there. The courthouse lawsuit, it was scheduled for a trial next month. That has a joint continuance has been entered by both parties to move it to February, and re-exploring the possibility of mediating some type of settlement. That's all I got.
You've been busy. All right. Anything else?
That's it.
That's it. All right. We are going to adjourn this meeting.